Now there is the thing everyone is going nuts about online. Maybe like the real thing I don't think is as big as the fake thing. And by fake thing, I just mean like Elliot Friedman hasn't tweeted that the Flyers are in on Askarov or anything. Like, oh, they're negotiating. We'll see. Like, we haven't heard any of that.
Yeah.
But
because that was the whole point of my tweets. My tweet thread was that I'm not saying that I know for sure that they're not in on Askarov. I just don't think they are going to be in on Askarov based on the circumstantial evidence of what I know about how they feel about Sam Ersson and about how they clearly feel about Ivan Fedotov, given the commitment they made to him after what, like 2 NHL appearances?
Yes. And I like the Fedotov part of this is to me like a non-issue.
Well, let's before we get into this, let's actually talk about Yaroslav Askarov.
All right.
For those who are not super online and do not know who we're talking about, we should probably give the background.
Good thinking. All right. So it appeared sometime between the trade deadline and the draft and everything that went down that the Nashville Predators might be trading UC Saros. And because they have Yaroslav Askarov, a very highly touted prospect.
He was taken 11th overall in the 2020 draft. Goalies are not taken in the first round very often, so this
like
was kind. Yeah. I mean, I believe that draft there were a few.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, today, if you're a goalie that was taken in the first round, you are viewed as a potential franchise goalie.
Vezina contender.
Yes, he is universally viewed as one of the best goalie prospects in hockey.
They had him. It was like, oh, Nashville's probably going to trade Saros. He's getting up there. There's a few teams, including the Devils. It was like, oh, 10 for Saros. Looks like it's going to happen. None of this goes down.
Saros has one more. He basically, this upcoming season will have been his final year on his contract. So the idea was, okay, well, they're going to trade Saros and they're going to turn the net over to Askarov, the guy who they spent the 11th overall pick on just a few years ago. That was the general assumption.
And then that never happened. In fact, they then gave UC Saros an 8-year contract extension. Right. They committed to this guy long term. So it's like, well, what the hell happens to their highly touted prospect
They
now?
basically bobbed him the way that the Flyers did by signing Ilya Bryzgalov.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So it's reported, and this has been rumored, but Kevin Weeks reports today that he has officially requested a trade from the Askarov has officially requested a trade. He doesn't want to spend a whole year in another year in the AHL.
He's spent 2 already.
Yeah,
he's been in their AHL system for 2 seasons. This is in a situation where like he didn't come over from Russia. He's been over for a few years. Yeah.
He's played for the Milwaukee Admirals. He's there, and now he wants guaranteed NHL playing time.
Right.
The Flyers may be losing a goalie prospect. They also don't have, at the NHL level or AHL level, a guy that you'd be like, that's a number one.
They do not have the slam dunk long-term answer to their goaltending. I'm not even going to call it problem, but just the goaltending question.
Who the hell is the goalie long-term? We will see. We just
not know
talked. Yes. This year we're going to find out about Ersson and Fedotov, and then next year maybe Kolosov joins the mix in a 3-way goalie competition to really see who has the net, at least until, Bjarnason, Zavragin, who are years away at this point. Yeah. It is a question. What happens in net? There are varying degrees of what you think of, like, oh, yeah, Ersson, he's fine, or Ersson stinks, or he's going to be great. There's a lot of different thoughts on Sam Ersson. My first question, Charlie, do you believe Yaroslav Askarov has a higher upside than Sam Ersson?
Probably.
Then why not trade for him?
Because they really like Sam Ersson. And just because, I do think that, and this is understandable. I get it. I totally get the online tendency towards upside. It's like, well, does he have the bigger upside? Well, yeah, he's better. Upside does not mean certainty. There is no guarantee. Despite the fact that Yaroslav Askarov is a highly touted goalie prospect, some people believe he is the best goalie prospect in hockey, although that is more of a matter of opinion and whatnot. It's not a certainty that he's going to be good. It's not. It's just not. We don't know for sure. Goalie prospects bust all the time. Goalies bust all the time. This happens. The Flyers know Sam Ersson. They like Sam Ersson. They drafted him. They developed him. They really like his mental makeup. They believe he is a strong mental goalie. They like his talent. And they do not, unlike I think some fans, particularly fans who didn't watch the games, the ones who just kind of look at the stats and say oh, he had a 890 save percentage. This guy stinks. Those who lived the final 2 months of that season know that it was not Sam Ersson's fault that his stats tanked. It was the circumstances of they lost Carter Hart because Carter Hart got indicted essentially. And Cal Peterson made it abundantly clear that he's not an NHL goalie. So it then became, okay, we're in a playoff race. So if we want any chance to make the playoffs, we got to use the one actual NHL caliber goalie we have on the roster. So we're going to run Sam Ersson to the ground and cross our fingers that he holds up. He didn't. His numbers tanked. The Flyers are not holding it against Sam Ersson that his full season numbers as a rookie don't look great, because they look at it as that's not the real Sam Ersson. We saw the real Sam Ersson for 2/3 of the season, and then we saw the exhausted, mentally drained Sam Ersson, who we ran into the ground due to circumstances out of his control. They like Sam Ersson, and they are not, I don't think they are willing to basically, which I think is what they would have to do if they were trading for Askarov, whether it would be in this trade or whether it would be a separate trade. I do not think they are willing to jettison Sam Ersson and replace him with Askarov. I just don't think they're willing to do it. Even if you could say Askarov's upside is higher. Yeah, probably. He was a first-round pick. He's been highly touted for his whole career. But, Ersson could be real good, too. I don't know enough about the goalie position to say with certainty that, Sam Ersson isn't going to be a better goalie than Askarov. He very well could be. And, the flip side of this, and again, I'm not criticizing fans, because I understand why people are excited about this guy. He's a highly touted goalie prospect who is suddenly available. If the Flyers traded Ersson for Askarov and Askarov busted and Ersson became a legitimately good NHL goalie, this would be something that we would be screaming about for 20 years. We're still complaining about Bob.
Yeah, but if that's how you make every decision, especially in a rebuild, what if it goes wrong? You're never going to be anything but mediocre.
But at some point, you got to trust your guys, and they trust Ersson. They like Ersson.
In a normal circumstance, if I like Sam Ersson and I do like his mental makeup and I really appreciate what he did for them last year, all that stuff. Under normal circumstances, if Askarov wasn't available, I would love to find out what Sam Ersson could be given a normal workload, not starting 28 out of 34 or whatever the hell it was. I would love to see what he could be. That said, I don't think he's good enough to be we can't go get this guy who might be great. This rebuild only works if you take some swings on high-end talent. By all accounts, this is a high-end talent. If you have to trade a goalie who might have done something for you, might not, I think it's worth the swing. I just see a guy, this is a first round, and it's not as if this is some organization, Nashville, that gets this shit wrong a lot. They're pretty good with this. They're usually right about goalies. It happens with them a lot.
Okay, but by the flip side of that, if you're saying that Nashville is usually right about goalies, they very clearly made the decision that they would rather have 8 years of a declining UC Saros than entrust the net to Yaroslav Askarov.
They also are in a much different position. They are a small market team, very much afraid to have bad seasons.
Fair.
They would not be profitable if they miss the playoffs, if they have a couple of years where they're just kind of irrelevant. And this plan worked with them last time. They had Pecorine, they had UC Saros, and they had both for a while. And it worked for them. And then eventually they handed it off to Saros, and all went well. That probably is what the plan is again, until now he is Yaroslav Askarov has now asked for, these are just so many names.
A lot of names.
So many Russians today. But this is now the plan. Now he has thrown a wrench in that, being no, I'm not staying in the AHL. I'm not going to be backing up this guy with an 8-year contract. That's foolish. That doesn't help my career at all. I want out of here.
Right.
Makes sense for him.
Completely understandable.
Very understandable for him. He wants to make NHL starter money at some point. I just see an opportunity to upgrade a question mark position. I liked what I saw out of Sam Ersson. I didn't like it enough to be oh yeah, fuck it. He's set and forget. It's still, we're figuring out what he is this year. It's not as if he's the starter because we don't have a starter. it's not as if this is Carter. Well, yeah, Carter Hart's the number one, and then whatever happens behind him is the backup situation. Like, no, this is a competition for the next couple of years in this net. Go get the best guy. I guess he's the best guy.
I guess my thing, and like, look, if the Flyers traded Ersson for Askarov, I would understand it, because again, as you said, it would be a big swing, and we've said take big swings. What rubs me the wrong way about the discourse around Askarov is, and this is a trap that a lot of us fall into. It's not something that I think is unique to Twitter. It's unique to just fans in general. You dream on prospects, and like Askarov is the blue chip goalie prospect. So therefore, if you're into prospects, it is very, very difficult for you to imagine a world where Askarov isn't a stud. Like, there are goalie prospects bust all the time.
It happens regularly.
And you can't I had somebody in my mentions that Dylan Robillard today who was like, it's proven that Askarov is a number one start. I'm like, is it? He has a career, he has a .911 save percentage in the AHL, which is good. It's good for his age. It's not, it doesn't scream to me like, oh my God, we definitely have the next Shesterkin on our hands. I think that this happens where people get too excited about prospects, where it just becomes like, oh, he's a top prospect, he's going to be a stud. That's not a guarantee. It's not even close to a guarantee.
This isn't even about him being a stud to me, and I think he has a higher potential to be one than Sam Ersson. I think this is very much a probabilities conversation. Chances are Askarov is better than Sam Ersson. That's just reality. Chances are he's better.
I am not 100% ready to say that with the degree of certainty, because it's not like you're just going to be able to do this trade by swapping Ersson for Askarov.
Oh, no.
You're going to have to either trade Ersson in a separate trade or include him in this deal and then give up more assets in addition. And their view probably is in a vacuum, if you're asking me to choose between Sam Ersson and Askarov, would I pick Askarov? Yeah, probably. But if it is Ersson versus giving up a first-round pick and another prospect and Sam Ersson, then it's a much different calculation.
And that's what it comes down to for me. If the price is astronomical, maybe I back off. But we've seen some goalies moved around, including a potential star in Jacob Markstrom, to a team that is in win-now mode, and it didn't cost a whole lot. Now, he's 34. You're trading for what, a 22-year-old goalie, who you're hoping Nashville has to build into the price. We're trading you what could be your starter for 10 years. So, you're going to pay us for that.
Yeah.
Not your starter for 2 years like Jacob Markstrom's
and we've gotten every indication that Nashville is not selling.
Yeah. They're not selling low
They
on this
may
guy.
have to, but they don't. Right now, they are saying hey, if you want this guy, you're going to have to pay up.
Much like the Kolosov conversation. There's a little bit of, you can want to trade all you want, bro. Yeah. But you're fucking here.
Yeah.
And before we go any further, I want to thank all of our PHLY diehards. Couldn't do what we do here without you at PHLY or throughout All City. You make it possible. So thanks a lot to our diehards.
I guess where I come from, and this is after decades of watching the best prospects not become what we expected them to. We watched it with the Flyers. They had the best prospect pool for 2-3 years, and then the one guy they got out of it who is a borderline star is Travis Konechny. Everybody else either busted or is just decent. In Ersson, I have a guy who I know has the mental toughness to be an NHL goalie. I believe has the skill to be an NHL caliber goalie. And I am intrigued to see what his ceiling is when he is not being dramatically misused to the degree that everyone involved in the situation agrees he was dramatically misused. With Askarov, he might be great. And I'm not going to go to the mystery box thing because he's established enough that he isn't just a mystery box. He's a top tier goalie prospect who's already shown that he is an above average AHL goalie at a young age. That is a really good asset. That is a guy with serious potential. But I don't want to fall in the trap of reading his scouting reports and being certain that he is going to be a stud. And I think that people do fall into that trap, whereas there is more certainty surrounding Ersson. Now, is there maybe more certainty that Ersson isn't going to be a star goalie? Sure, because he's further along in the process. And most likely, if he was going to be a star, he would have shown us that he has star level potential. But there's a lot of scenarios where Askarov just like doesn't have what it takes mentally, or his game doesn't translate, or he gets hurt. Like, I guess it's not a slam dunk to me because I don't have the same certainty that I think a lot of people have about Askarov's future.
Yeah, like, we're talking about these AHL numbers and what they've done throughout their careers. Like, he's got that career 9/11 save percentage Askarov does in the AHL. In one full season in the AHL, Ersson put up a 900 save percentage. His NHL save percentage in 12 games a couple of years ago, 899. His NHL save percentage this last season, and I know about the workload. I bring it up all the time. It wasn't fair. It was fucked up, honestly. Bad for him. 890. He hasn't been consistently good anywhere.
He was really good in Sweden.
Yes, since coming over. Yeah. Since he's been a part of the Flyers organization with the Phantoms and Flyers, he hasn't like set the world on fire. I think there's something there, and if this wasn't a possibility, would love to see it. But if given the choice of first-round prospect who's already had a better AHL career than he did, who's already tasted a little bit of NHL, over guy who might be okay, that's what I think Ersson ultimately is going to be. Maybe there's more there, but ultimately I think he's going to be okay, and that's it. Like, I need to take that chance because, and again, it comes down to price. Like, I'm not giving up everything, but like, I want high-end talent. We don't have our 1D yet. We don't have our 1C yet, and that's why it comes down to, like, I'm not going to surrender all these assets and then still not have a 1D or a 1C.
Yeah, and I think
but
that's definitely
if you can get him for something reasonable, then I think you have to do it, because how many times this summer have we said this position has such an outsized impact on, like, it's the position that if you get right, you're automatically a contender. You can have an okay team. If you have the goalie, that covers up a lot of things. Now, ultimately, you'd like to have everything, but like, they don't yet.
Yeah.
And this might be kind of like almost a backdoor to contendership while they're figuring out 1C and 1D. Like, that's what I see ultimately. And it might not work. Like, it might be a fucking failure. But that's what a rebuild is taking calculated risks. They haven't taken any yet, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair.
Other than the Konechny contract, which is a calculated risk that many don't agree with.
Yeah, it's the other direction. He's going to age well and whatnot. I see where you're coming from. And let me put it this way. If they were to trade for Askarov, like, I wouldn't be critical of it. I would understand the logic of it. I just don't think it is... I don't think it's like a slam dunk that, like, oh, they should absolutely be an Askarov, because it's not like... I guess if your philosophy is the Flyers are in a rebuild and therefore every single young player, regardless of position, regardless of fit, regardless of anything, like, just get them or just be in on them because, like, that's the position you're in and just go for upside, period. Fair. That's a consistent philosophical way to build, like, belief on building a team. Like, I think they have bigger organizational needs than burning a first-round pick on getting Askarov. I would rather them burn a first-round pick on getting a center or getting a defensive. Now, if the choice is burn a first-round pick on Askarov or don't use it at all, then sure, use it on Askarov. But, like, if this isn't the big trade I would personally make.
It's like, if it could be Ersson and you get your pick of the Colorado, Edmonton picks, whichever one is better for you, like, that's fine with me. If it's considerably more than that, like, oh yeah, and it's going to cost you, like, you know, a couple of guys in the system too, some highly touted prospects or whatever, then it's no longer worth it. But I think there's a way, hopefully, to do it without burning your entire asset, you know, collection to the ground. If you have to do it, then yeah, maybe this isn't the best way to spend them. But they're going to have to take some risks at some point, and they haven't yet. Like, when do we get this high-end talent? When is it coming? Here's a high-end possibility, a guy who wants out at a position of need. Is it the biggest need? No. But it is a need, and it's a real important one. I don't see as much downside as you do.
I guess the point I'm making is that, like, I guess theoretically everything is a need because they don't have a good enough team.
Middle six winger, I think, like, if a middle six winger became available in this situation, I'd be like, nah, we're good. We don't need to be in on that guy. 1C, 1D, 1G are very much still positions of need. Now, yeah, they need a center like we need air. That's true. But as we've seen, goalies are real fucking important. We've never had one, and it's like the biggest thing in the world. We've never had a goalie. We talk about it for 30 years. Here's a chance to get one. That's all.
We all silly like the mayor.